this is Manindrabu from Batam. I love listening to Gold FM, only the classic hits.
I'm Sela Sadakau from Vatupula. I only listen to Gold FM, only the classic hits.
Gold Naka, I'm Vale and I'm working at Golden Pro Resort, and I love listening to Gold FM because it plays a really wide range of classic hit music.
I'm Saini Sakio from Kashmir Wotoka. I like Gold FM, but only the classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.
Good evening, I'm Amrita Priyadarshini. This is FBC News. Tonight, NFP working committee to discuss Dronindalo's next step. Child labour prevalent post-tropical cyclone Winston. And hundreds pay final respect to alleged murder victim. The National Federation Party Working Committee will meet this week to discuss its next step. This follows a public apology by suspended opposition MP Tupon Dronindalo to Education Minister Dr. Mahendra Reddy, the Parliament and the nation about her utterances in Parliament last week. Farzana Nisha has more.
National Federation Party leader Dr. Biman Prasad told FBC News Tupon Dronindalo has abided by the resolution of Parliament.
Party's working committee will meet on Sunday this week. And in that meeting, the party will consider a number of options in relation to the suspension, including mounting a legal challenge, which Honorable Dronindalo has indicated in her apology as well. So that's where we are at the moment, and we will let you know more after the working committee meeting on Sunday.
Prasad further clarified that Dronindalo remains as party president, despite her suspension from Parliament.
He has complied with the resolution of the Parliament, and that's where the matter ends at the moment.
In a public apology delivered to the Speaker of the House, Dr. Chico Liveni, this week, Dronindalo says she will comply with the suspension resolution without prejudice to her rights to challenge the process by which it has arrived at. She says her interjection was to the effect that Dr. Reddy had implied words of the opposition, calling us dumb natives. Dronindalo says she has many differences with Dr. Reddy, however, doesn't consider him to be racist and didn't intend to cast him as such in the words she used. She has sought apology to anyone who may have interpreted her words otherwise. Dronindalo has acknowledged that the breach was severe and had far-reaching effects. Farzana Nisha, FBC News.
Many young children have been engaged in physical work to provide for their families' needs following the devastation of tropical cyclone Winston. European Union's ambassador to the Pacific, Andrew Jacobs, says it's understandable the cyclone damaged many families' livelihood, but sending children to work at an early age is never the solution. Kali Vadala has the details.
The destruction brought in by the Category 5 cyclone in February should not be an excuse to send children to start earning for their families' needs, particularly at a very young age.
The cyclone Winston, children have been working more. It's understandable because communities need to be rebuilt and the schools have been destroyed, so the children have not had, in some communities, anywhere to live. There's been a tendency for children to go out to work, to try to get money for their families, but that's something I think that we need also to tackle in the immediate future.
Considered exploitive by many international organizations, child labor is a crime that deprives children of their childhood and interferes with their ability to attend regular school. It's also the lack of responsibility by parents.
It's very sad to hear all these things about child labor. We must, as a parents, we must look after our children properly. You give them time for them to stay. Their age is not for labor, it's for our care. Fiji must not access child labor.
After tropical cyclone Winston, I have seen many children engage into child labor, and it's not a good thing for them. Actually, their main priority is to study and to work on the future, rather than working now and taking the burden on their families.
So I believe that parents bring children into this world not to make them work in a very early age. Children should have the right to go through the normal education process. They need to feel how it feels like to learn. I have to admit that after tropical cyclone, that yes, we can't go back in settling for the same usual life that we used to have before, but that should not give parents the right to say that I can put my child to work.
The Ministry of Labour has so far received 182 cases of child labour in the country since 2011. The ministry has withdrawn these children from labour and referred them to various schools to get a good education. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
Hundreds of people gathered at the funeral service of 42-year-old Salesh Chand, who was allegedly murdered in Lautoka on Wednesday morning. Chand's burned body was discovered by a team of police officers around 3 a.m. on Wednesday. Family members could not hold back their tears as his casket was taken to his home in Narere, Nasinu for the final rituals. He was an operations manager at a hardware company in Lautoka. Chand is survived by his wife, 2 children and his elderly mother. Meanwhile, police are now following some leads in relation to the incident. Police Chief of Intelligence and Investigations ACP Luke Navella says they're getting information on the whereabouts of Chand on the early hours of Wednesday. Well, about 200 locals were employed by a U.S. film production company during the shoot of a reality TV show stranded with $1 million on the island of Taveuni. While the 2-month-long shoot brought the economy on the island back to life, government's tax rebate policy also played a big role in getting these kinds of production companies to come to our shores. Eleanor Turangaivu reports.
US-based Talbot TV production says Fiji's film tax rebate policy attracted them here. Overseas production companies that shoot here in Fiji qualify for a 47% tax rebate.
They have laid out, what the rebate process is about, how to properly work through it, so that it works for us financially to be able to come here.
About $10 million was pumped into the local economy during the company's shooting of a reality TV show on the island of Taveuni, beginning on the month of April and ending in May.
We have been able to bring some money into the local economy, but we've benefited so much by the labor and the things that we've bought, so we feel like we've gotten a great deal and we're happy.
Villages and communities on the island of Taveuni benefited greatly from the production shoot, with over 150 locals being employed to work in various fields.
We had an amazing opportunity to employ them, involve them in the production, make them feel like family. Honestly, we really couldn't even produce this TV series without the locals.
Workers received between $100 to $150 a day during the 2-month shoot. Villages used as location points during the shoot were paid a lump sum of $20,000.
For the locals out here, at their doorsteps, money pouring in, it's really fantastic. We thank God for that.
Many of us that have retired from the military have been paid to guard and monitor the security and safety of this production, and it's not an easy one.
Those of us in Vindao village are contributing to this production by helping the crew and assisting them in lifting of heavy equipments from one location to another, and also cleaning up of the areas where the production will be filmed.
The company hopes to return to Fiji later in the year for another production shoot. Eleanor Turangaivu, FBC News.
Thousands in the large Nasinu population gathered at the Valelevu ground to take advantage of the food, display, entertainment and rides at the opening of the Vodafone Millennium Sinu Festival last night. The festival aims to raise funds for charity chests to help support the Prime Minister's National Disaster Relief and Rehabilitation Fund. Nasinu is expected to blossom into bright colors and merrymaking throughout the week, bringing together people from all walks of life. The Miss Nasinu will be crowned on Saturday and represent Nasinu at the Miss Fiji pageant later this year. This is the first time Nasinu is hosting the event. Coming up on FBC News, Health Ministry to focus on renovations. And Tokariki Island Resort developer shares his success. Stay with us.
FM rocks.
My name is Denasa and I'm from Lautoka and I love listening to Today FM.
My name is Hulamila. I work at Golden Point Resort. I love listening to Today FM. It rocks in Raki Raki.
I'm Mary from Mandera. I love listening to the FM. To the FM rock.
We love listening to Today FM. Today FM rocks.
Today's hit music on Today FM.
Welcome back to FBC News. Improvement to health facilities that were affected by Tropical Cyclone Winston is now the Health Ministry's focus. Health Minister Chone Usamate says the early rebuild of the damaged infrastructure will assist in providing efficient and effective services to all Fijians. Savara Tambor reports 25% of the health facilities around the country were damaged.
Lautoka Hospital, Mba Hospital, Kiasi Health Center in Nabosai and others are some of the capital projects being renovated. However, Health Minister Chone Usamate says works have been deferred due to the Category 5 cyclone.
One of the things that affected us also was Cyclone Winston. When that happened, we had to focus a lot more efforts on repairing the facilities that we had. 25% of our facilities as a result of Cyclone Winston were either completely destroyed or damaged, and that has taken up the focus of some things that we do.
Usamate says work is progressing well at the two main hospitals in Lautoka and the CWM hospital in Suva.
So that should be of great benefit to the people in the Western Division. We are still continuing the initial work on putting together the CWM hospital maternity unit. The initial work has been done this year in terms of the getting the consultants underway. We don't expect construction to commence this year, but this is a major issue that we hope to be able to complete within 3 years' time.
Accident and Emergency Department at the Lautoka Hospital will be open to members of the public in the third quarter of this year at a cost of $12.4 million. Renovations at the Kiasi Health Facility will take 154 weeks, while upgrade at the Naulu Health Facility in Akasi will be completed by next year. Sabira Tambua, FBC News.
The Sawa-i-Lau caves in the northern tip of the Yasawa group of islands is a frequented spot for tourists looking to experience a touch of unforgettable Fijian adventure. Rated as one of the world's top 17 spots to be visited in 2016 by the Ararat TripAdvisor, the caves is indeed a gem in the crown of Fiji's tourism industry. Madhyun Boletamana with this report.
Getting to the sun-scorched group of islands in the northern tip of Yasawa, you cannot help but be taken away by the geography that grips you everywhere you look. But as if the beautiful white sandy beaches, pristine clear blue waters and greenery wasn't amazing enough, the Sawa-i-Lau caves will blow you away. The handiwork of volcanic activity here hundreds of years ago is clearly evident, and that is why many tourists flock this iconic landmark in the picturesque Yasawa group. This week the site has been receiving a good number of tourists, many of whom are returning, and an equal number of first-timers. As the locals say, you haven't been to Yasawa if you haven't gone snorkeling or diving in Sawa-i-Lau. Madhyun Boletamana, FBC News.
Around 1,000 women market vendors, farmers who were adversely affected by Tropical Cyclone Winston, have received agriculture supplies that will help in their efforts to replant their crops. The supplies provided through UN Women and Food and Organization were distributed to the women in the Ba, Lautoka, Raki and Tavua markets. All the vendors are centered in areas that were most affected by the cyclone. Each of the vendors received assorted seeds, fertilizer and agriculture tools. The produce will eventually be sold to the market. Vision Investments Limited has teamed up with international insurance giant the New India Assurance to offer select insurance services through Court store outlets around the country. This means customers will have an advantage and convenience in buying insurance through Courts. With many Courts outlets open late hours and also on weekends, it allows customers to do their insurance business at a time convenient to them. New India Assurance Chief Operating Officer Subhash Mehta says they have a vision to look beyond and explore untapped and unexplored markets to serve Fijians for their general insurance requirements, especially vehicle insurances. In the insurance industry, a primary consideration in placing insurance is the financial stability of the insurance company and its ability and financial resources to pay out large claims. And the selling of insurance services through Court stores begins tomorrow. Well, when you talk about the world's most liked luxury romantic holiday destination, Stokoriki Island Resort is a property that you can't miss with its award-winning rave reviews. In our successful Fijian feature for this weekend, we speak to the man behind the driving success of a Fijian property on the picturesque Mamanutha group of islands that has won many accolades for being the top shelf couples destination in the world. Madhimbole Tamana was on Tokariki Island Resort this week and spoke to the man who has developed the resort to where it is now some 21 years ago.
Successful Fijians was brought to you by the Fiji Development Bank, your partner in progress.
Andrew Turnbull is an Australian-born businessman who has called Fiji home for the past 21 years. Since setting foot here some 30-odd years ago, Turnbull says he continues to be taken aback by the bountiful islands and the charm of its inhabitants.
And it's been an amazing ride because I was a lolly salesman or a candy salesman all my life, and came here for a holiday, and my daughter, who was then 12, said, "Hey Dad, the island's for sale." So the next minute I'm looking at it and my wife said, "You're joking?" And I said, "Well, not really, because even though it was very, very tired, it had great potential."
The rest for the Turnbull family, as they say, is history. But it wasn't all plain sailing.
And because I'd never known anything about investment in Fiji and how things worked with the locals and how things worked with the banks, and so I was lamb to the slaughter, and we arrived here, and I started with two partners, and after a year we'd found out how much money we'd lost, and they both wanted to get out, so I bought them out. And then for another couple of years we kept losing money, but we could see a light at the end of the tunnel, so we kept pouring money back in.
Turnbull concedes that at times the thought of calling it a day in his adopted country had been discussed.
Temptation was there. Absolutely, the temptation was there. We had some disagreement with landowners, probably through lack of communication, but we kept spending all this money in capex, building stuff on the resort land that we lease, and they're still getting proportionally an increase, obviously, of their lease monies. But they came to me one day and asked me about increasing the lease payments because look at all the buildings and look at all the swimming pools and look at the reason that the resort was being successful.
But over the years, Turnbull says his working relationship with the landowners and the staff has improved immensely.
I was working here 5 years ago. I did join my mom. My mom was working 20 years ago. She was working in the housekeeping department as a supervisor here in Tokariki, and then
he helped me a lot about education for my daughter. So right now, my daughter, she's an S. She's an S now. That was Mr. Turnbull's helped me about education.
For the man who started out on a whim some 21 years ago, looking back, his belief to invest in a property like the Mamanuthas has paid off immensely.
Look at how many resorts in the world have got sun, sea and sand, and then you look at how many in Fiji have got sun, sea and sand. And so what's Tokariki got? It's got staff, and the reason we've got staff that we believe are the best anywhere is because we treat them as family. They've been with us for 15 or 20 years. We know when they're having babies, we know when when a member of their family dies, we know when they need a new false tooth because we buy it for them, you know. And I think that this has been probably the critical issue of our success.
For the lolly and candy salesman, the bold move to leave his familiar and comfort surroundings to venture into an unknown business has paid dividends some 21 years later. He says he hopes to take the Tourism Fiji product to the next level with a soon-to-open 40-room family resort in the not-too-distant future. Madhimbole Tamana, FBC News.
Successful Fijians was brought to you by the Fiji Development Bank, your partner in progress.
Coming up in sports after the break, flying Fijians to resume training tomorrow. An Under-17 league kicks off. Those stories and more coming up.
आपको खरगंगा के रंजिला का नमस्कार। रेडियो फिजी की सुंदर सुंदर यादों का खजाना एकदम बचपन के दिन याद करा देते हैं।
हमारा नाम जोनी नायडू है, हम रहता है मलोरो में और हम
टैक्सी ड्राइवर है, हम सब टाइम अपन टैक्सी में रेडियो FBC सुनता प्रोग्राम।
हम सिंगाटोका के हैं, हमारा नाम है रोजी, हम लोग यहाँ पे रेडियो FBC सुनता है।
राम राम, मैं रेमस प्रसाद बोलता हूँ, तब होता मैं कोई रहता हूँ, मैं जब भी सुना रेडियो FBC ही सुनता हूँ।
रेडियो FBC, देश की धड़कन।
Welcome to FBC Sports. Now, the Vodafone Flying Fijians know they will need to lift up their game if they are to successfully defend the Pacific Nations Cup title. The Fijians made a lot of handling errors and were dominated in the scrums and lineouts in the 23-18 close win over Tonga yesterday. The John McKee coach side now faces Samoa in their second match next Saturday and knows they will need a better performance to record their second win. Meanwhile, Samoa were held to a 19-all draw by Georgia in their match yesterday. And the Fiji-Samoa match kicks off at 3 p.m. next Saturday at the ANZ Stadium in Suva. Well, the Suva rugby side still leads the Skipper Cup competition after 6 rounds of competition. A win for Nandi over Malolo would have seen the Jet Setters overtake Suva, but the match ended in an 18-all draw. Only 4 points separate the top 5 teams in the competition. The Skipper Cup competition resumes after 2 weeks. The Vodafone Under-17 League football competition kicked off in Suva today. This is the Fiji Football Association's one of many development programs to identify elite players for future national duties. Rohit Deo with the story.
The Vodafone Under-17 League kicked off with host Suva going down to Navua 6-2 in the opening match today. Navua's coach Selosi Danford has acknowledged the Fiji FA organizing this tournament.
I would like to thank Fiji Football for coming up with the initiative. The boys really want to play. They were asking me about the games throughout this year. But it's good that ball started rolling, and we congratulate Fiji Football for that.
Danford says most of his players come from poor backgrounds, but being provided with the sporting gears was a bonus.
Always were given the equipment. Some of the boys they come from a background that they cannot afford the boots, but we are glad that we were given the 20 pair of boots and shin pads.
National Under-17 coach Charlene Lal was pleased with what he saw today. He is likely to get some new players to his regional academy side.
There's reasons why we have run this league. First one is for us to identify the players who have missed out for the regional academy team, and I'm sure there are players whom we have missed from last year, and we will be able to identify the players so that we can bring them along and get the best players out from the country.
In another match played today, Telebonita Series thumped Nasinu 10-0. Rohit Deo, FBC Sports.
The Lami football side defeated Navua 3-1 in the Vodafone Senior League Southern Zone competition today. Navua scored early in the match to lead 1-0, but Lami came back strongly to score 3 unanswered goals. The win has put Lami in a strong position to win the Southern Zone. And Lami leads the points table with 11 points. The New Zealand football side has won the OFC Nations Cup in Papua New Guinea, defeating the hosts on penalties 4-2 in dramatic fashion. Here's the action from the shootout.
Bellin scores. He hit it with power. Upainga for Papua New Guinea. Good save! Wonderful save by Marinovic. You'd imagine, despite the theatre before us, Warasan against McGlinchey, and that's a good penalty. 2-0 up. Bitch can pull off a save from Semi. He struck it well on the board to make a save for Papua New Guinea. Now Dyer. Very well taken penalty. Just a very informed goalkeeper. Marinovic gets close. He's got the experience. He stays calm. Oh, he's missed it. Can you believe it? Ganemba for Papua New Guinea. Oh, he's hit the post. I think Marinovic's got a glove on it. One kick away from the FIFA Confederations Cup next year. There it is. New Zealand have won on penalties.
Well, the winners also secured the All-Whites a spot in the next Confederations Cup, which will be held in Russia. Meanwhile, Russia scored a goal in injury time to hold England to a 1-1 draw. In other matches today, Gareth Bale scored for Wales to help his side beat Slovakia 2-1. Switzerland also recorded a win in their opener, beating Albania 1-0. And in the feature match tomorrow at 7 a.m, Germany plays Ukraine. weather prevailed over the country today. A trough of low pressure lies slow moving over Tuvalu, Tokelau and the Northern Cooks, while another trough remains slow moving over Wallis, Tonga and Niue. Mombasa was the hottest again today with 30 degrees. Nandi, Ba and Savu-Savu were at 28 degrees, with Suva being the coolest on 27 degrees. Well, tomorrow is going to be a good start to the week as the weather is expected to be fine throughout the country. As for the further outlook, brief showers about the interior and eastern parts of the larger islands. Elsewhere, it should be fine. Southeast winds 10 to 15 knots and moderate seas are expected. Recapping the main stories tonight, NFP Working Committee to meet and discuss suspended Dronindalo's next step. Child labour cases prevalent following TC Winston. And families and friends pay last respect to Celeste Chand, who was allegedly murdered in Lautoka this week. Now for these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. And on to this week's poll question. We are asking, are you happy with the new venue for the Hibiscus Festival? To answer, visit our FBC website. You can also send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email, citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our Facebook page, FBC News. If you're on Twitter, follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC News or hashtag FBC News. You've been watching FBC News. I'm Amrita Priyadarshini. Good night.
Alango Katonesia Tugotua, Omonia Saurara, although we will take you on a TV and a market Tawa. Although Talitagana, Warrona, Bula FM, and Namandu and Set.
Pula Vici, Nadango Palacio Materia, one may Nanan Bulu Tabiuni, Ausatuga Nandi, and the Talita na Warongo and a Bula FM.
Bula FM, number 2 and seri.